The crash in the crimson dunes. The sky above the red moon cracked with fire. A human dropship spiraled through the atmosphere, smoke trailing behind it like a dying comet. Inside, pilot Daniel Brace gripped the controls, his face bleeding and his breath sharp with panic. He had been ambushed. No warning, no signals, just silence. And then missiles. The ship screamed as it crashed into the dunes, dragging across the surface like a wounded beast. Sand exploded. Metal ripped. And then silence. For a long time, Daniel didn't move. When he opened his eyes, he was upside down. The cockpit was half buried in red dust, broken glass hanging from the frame like teeth. His arms ached, his leg was pinned. He reached down, grunting as he pulled it free, leaving a trail of blood. No medkits, no beacon, no signal. He crawled out into the open desert. The sun was low, casting long, sharp shadows across the crimson dunes. Heat shimmered in waves. Above him, stars blinked through a thin pink sky. His lips cracked, his vision blurred. He didn't know how long he crawled. Minutes, hours. Then he saw her. At first, she looked like a mirage. Tall, still, skin like polished silver, eyes glowing faint red under a black hood. She didn't move. She didn't speak. She just watched him. Daniel reached for his blaster, but his hand failed him. He collapsed onto the sand. "Please," he whispered, voice dry. "Help. Me." She walked over. Her bare feet didn't leave prints. She knelt beside him and pulled back her hood. Her face was beautiful. Inhuman. Perfect. Ageless. Her eyes stared into his. And then slowly, she drew a small knife across her palm. Deep red. Blood shimmered in the fading light. Without a word, she let a single drop fall onto Daniel's chest. It burned like fire. He screamed. His veins lit up under his skin. His heart stopped. And then, it started again. Stronger. Faster. His wounds sealed before his eyes. He gasped, sat up, and found her still watching him. "What? What did you do to me?" he breathed. Her lips moved, but the sound didn't come from her mouth. It echoed inside his head. "I saved you, with a part of myself. Who are you? The last of my kind." She stood. "Wait," Daniel said. "I need to know. You will know. Soon." And just like that, she vanished, faded into the wind like dust. Daniel stood up slowly, shocked by his strength. His leg was fine. His chest no longer burned. But when he looked down into a shard of broken glass, he saw his reflection, or rather, the lack of it. No face, no eyes, just the desert behind him. His hands shook. What the hell did she do to me? He stared into the empty sky, and far above, hidden behind clouds of dust, something ancient stirred, something that had watched for centuries, something that had just woken up. Blood of the forgotten Daniel Brace walked through the dunes without leaving footprints. The red sand shifted beneath him but never swallowed his weight. The wind howled but no dust stuck to his skin. Even the sun, burning and merciless just hours before, now felt cold. He was alive. But something inside him wasn't. He found a cave just before dusk carved into the side of a jagged rock formation. It wasn't shelter. Not really. It called to him. He didn't question it. Inside, the walls were black stone, smooth and curved. Too perfect for nature, too ancient for machines. Symbols lined the ceiling, etched deep in patterns he couldn't understand. Some pulsed faintly, like breathing lights. In the center of the cave, she waited, the alien woman, the one with silver skin and red eyes. She sat cross-legged on a raised platform, her face calm but distant. "What am I?" Daniel asked. She looked up slowly. Her voice entered his mind again. Cold, smooth, and echoing like wind through ruins. "You are changed. You carry the curse of my blood now." Daniel stepped closer. "Curse?" "Immortality." He blinked. Then laughed a nervous hollow sound. You saved my life. No, I delayed your death. He stopped laughing. You're not human, he said. But you speak our language. I don't speak. I remember. I remember everything. Who are you? A long pause. My name was lost before your species learned to speak. We were once many. Now I am the last. Daniel sat across from her. His hand still shook. You're a vampire, he whispered. Her eyes narrowed. That word is too small. He didn't argue. His thoughts raced. He should be scared. But he wasn't. He should be dead. But he wasn't. His heartbeat too slow now. His vision reached too far. And when he closed his eyes, he heard voices in the dark, not screams, songs. She watched him quietly. My people were guardians, watchers. We gave blood to heal, to see, to remember. But the Galactic Order feared us. They twisted our name into something evil. So they hunted you. They wiped us from every archive, from every mind. They made the stars forget us. Daniel stared into the glowing symbols. Why did you save me? Another pause. I was alone. Too long. Too quiet. I felt your crash. Your blood on the sand. You reminded me what it felt like to care. His chest tightened. He wanted to speak, to thank her. But something inside shifted. A dull ache. A hunger. What's happening to me? She rose, walked to a corner of the cave where a small pool of black liquid shimmered. Your body is changing. Your mind too. Soon, you'll see as we see. He followed her. His reflection in the liquid was wrong. His eyes flickered red. His skin shimmered faintly silver under the moonlight. How long do I have? To live? Forever? To remain unchanged? A few days. Maybe less. He touched the water. It rippled without movement. He whispered, Will I become like you? She looked at him with something close to sorrow. You already are. Outside, the wind howled louder, but Daniel didn't feel it. He stepped into the night, heart steady, eyes sharp. In the distance, ships moved in the sky. Silent, black, and without lights. They were looking for her. And now, for him. But Daniel didn't run. He stood in the open desert and waited, because something deep inside had woken, and it was no longer afraid of death. The thirst, the night stretched longer than it should have. Daniel didn't sleep. He didn't blink. He just stood beneath a red moon, staring into the dunes, listening to a heartbeat that wasn't his. Deep below the surface, slow and ancient. His own heartbeat had changed days ago. It no longer raced with fear. It no longer slowed with pain. It moved with something else now. Something older. He returned to the cave before sunrise, but something was wrong. The silver-skinned woman wasn't there. In her place lay a circle of blood, still warm, still glowing, pulsing softly on the stone floor, and in his chest, a hunger roared. Not for food, not for water, for memory. His hands shook as he walked the cave. Everything he touched shimmered. Walls, bones, broken relics, and each touch pulled flashes into his mind. A child torn from starlight, wrapped in alien cloth, a war that shattered time, not worlds. A council chamber echoing with screams, and her standing before them, defiant, glowing, alone. Daniel fell, to his knees. His head burned, his teeth sharpened, his fingertips cracked. He whispered, What is happening to me? And the cave answered with silence. No, not silence. A voice, buried in memory. It begins with thirst, but it ends in choice. He stumbled outside, his throat burned, not from dryness, but from absence. He saw life in the distance, a pack of alien scavengers moving through the dunes. They didn't see him, not yet, but he saw them. He saw their heartbeats glowing in their chests. He could smell their memories. He stepped forward, but then she returned. She landed without a sound. Her cloak snapped in the wind. Her eyes burned brighter than before. She saw him. She saw his thirst. And she said nothing, just walked past him into the cave. He followed. Inside, the circle of blood was gone. In its place stood a bowl carved from black bone filled to the brim. He stared. "What is this?" "My past," she said. "Drink it, or lose yourself to hunger." He hesitated. His body trembled, his thoughts blurred, and then, slowly, he drank. It was not liquid. It was life. It raced through him like fire made of stars. He saw through her eyes the rise of her people, the fall, the betrayals. The screams of children burned in silence. And one final moment. Her standing on a cliff of ash, watching her last kin vanish into dust. She had been alone ever since. Until him. He dropped the bowl. It shattered, and he collapsed. When he woke, he was not the same. His hunger was gone. But something else had taken its place. His senses were sharper. His mind clearer. He heard things that didn't exist. He saw echoes of footsteps long since faded. He whispered, "What have you made me?" She stood by the cave mouth, watching the sky. "I didn't make you anything. You chose not to break. Now, you must choose what you'll become." Above them, council ships appeared, sleek and silver, scanning the dunes. They were looking for her, and now for him. Daniel clenched his fists. "They'll come for us." She didn't look at him. "They've always come. The question is, will we run again?" His throat no longer burned, his veins no longer pulsed with confusion. And for the first time since the crash, Daniel didn't feel lost. He felt ready. And as the sky filled with enemies, he smiled. The order hunts again, they came just before dusk. 12 sleek black ships, silent as shadow, hovering above the crimson dunes. No warning, no broadcast, just presence. The kind that always meant one thing: execution. The Galactic Order didn't send messengers. They sent removal units. From a ridge near the cave, Daniel watched them descend. He could feel their intentions. Not hear, not guess. Feel. They moved with purpose sharpened by centuries of silence. He turned to the alien woman beside him. Her cloak swayed gently, untouched by wind. "They found you," he said. Her gaze stayed on the ships. "No. They found you." On the lead vessel, Captain Azarix of the Arakarii caste stood before a holoscreen filled with red static. His face was calm, but his voice was bitter. "Target is contaminated," he said. "Human with pre-extinction blood fusion." "Confirm, Command?" A dry voice replied from orbit. "Terminate them both. Burn the ground, take no samples, no witnesses." Azarix nodded, but even before his boots touched the sand, he felt something wrong. Daniel walked out to meet them alone. No weapons, no armor, just a half-shadowed figure, hands loose by his sides. Azarix stepped forward, flanked by soldiers in armored suits glowing with pale runes. "You're infected," the captain said. Daniel tilted his head. "Maybe. You'll be dead in seconds." Daniel smiled faintly. "I was dead when you left me in the sand." Azarix raised his hand. "Fire." The soldiers moved as one. Light split the air. And then, silence. Not because Daniel dodged, not because he ran, because the weapons dissolved. Mid-shot energy turned to smoke. Metal melted in midair. One soldier screamed as his body folded into ash, pulled inward by something invisible. Not force, but remembrance. Azarix stepped back, eyes wide. "What are you?" Daniel looked down at his hands. They pulsed with light. Faint red veins of power just beneath his skin. His voice was quiet. "I'm what your council tried to erase." The woman stepped from the shadows behind him, eyes glowing brighter than blood. "You broke the law," Azarix said, shaking. "Your kind made a pact, and your kind broke it." Her words echoed through every soldier's mind, not as sound, but judgment. And then she raised her hand. The dunes trembled. Old bones rose from the sand, skulls, armor, weapons, relics of those who once walked immortal, and as Daniel watched, they did not fall apart. They stood, Not living, not dead. Remembered. Azirix turned to run, but the sand pulled him down. His voice rose in panic. We're not authorized for this. This is a myth. Daniel stepped beside him. You erased the truth. Now the truth erases you. And with a whisper, the ridge where the ships had landed turned black. Not from fire, but from memory stripped bare. Not destroyed, just removed. The ships vanished. The soldiers vanished. Azirix forgot himself. And then he was gone. Back in the cave, Daniel sat in silence. His body no longer trembled. His eyes no longer blinked. They'll send more, he said. The woman sat beside him. They always do, but you're not what they expect. Anymore. Then what am I? She looked at him. For the first time, she smiled. You're the future they feared most. A human who remembers the blood of gods. The Immortals wore beneath the crimson moon. The dunes began to shift. Not from wind, not from storms, from memory. As Daniel walked beside the last vampire woman, the ground beneath him trembled. Not with danger, but with recognition. It knew him now, and it was opening. They stood before a buried city, sealed beneath sand and silence for over 5,000 years, not carved by hands, not forged by machines, grown from bone, blood, and starlight. Black spires pierced the sky like broken teeth. The gates, shaped like fangs locked in stone, opened at their touch. No force, no key, just presence. What is this place? Daniel asked. The woman placed her hand on the obsidian door. Home. The throne of the forgotten, where my kind ruled before the council feared our truth. They stepped into darkness, but it wasn't dark. Runes glowed across the walls, stories written in ancient pulse light. As Daniel passed, the runes reacted, flaring, shifting, reshaping into his language. He stopped, he read. When the red blood meets the pale flame, the throne shall choose again. They reached a great hall, and in the center stood a circle of stone, smooth, silent, and breathing like it had a heart. Within it, dozens of figures lay encased in crystal. Warriors, queens, children, scholars. Untouched by time. They're still alive, Daniel whispered. The woman nodded, waiting. But they will not rise for me. He stepped closer. His blood pulsed. The crystal shimmered. One by one, the bodies inside opened their eyes. The hall trembled. Echoes of ancient words filled the air. Voices speaking from centuries ago, calling out a name they had never known. Before today, his name. Daniel looked at the woman. Why me? She didn't smile this time. Her voice was heavy with sorrow and hope. Because you didn't ask for power. You bled. You remembered. And you chose to stand when others would have run. A boy among the sleepers stepped forward, his eyes glowing silver. He knelt before Daniel. Then another. Then all of them. Not in submission, but in recognition. Daniel felt it. Not pride, not strength, but connection. Their blood remembered him, now, and it answered. The ruins above cracked open. Across the galaxy, systems trembled. On forgotten worlds, old bones stirred. Those who had once ruled, once protected, once fought for balance, the Immortals, awoke. And they followed him on, a council outpost far away. A warning echoed through their deepest sensors. Unknown activation detected. Location? Impossible. System long considered extinct. A pause. Then panic. It's happening. He's waking them. Daniel stood beneath the broken throne. His voice shook the hall. Not with volume, but with memory. You were forgotten. You were hunted, you were silenced, but you are not gone. Rise. Walk with me, we will not conquer, we will remind them who kept the stars alive. Above the ancient city, the sky darkened, not with night, but with wings. Thousands. They came not to feed, not to rule. They came to remember. And in the shadows of the past, something greater than war stirred. A return. The deathless command. Galactic Council had no words, only alarms. Systems blinked red across every capital world. Ancient vaults, once sealed by laws older than light, were opening. Not through force. Not through hacking. Through remembrance. The Council's betrayal had returned, not as war, but as waking blood. On the bridge of the Vuren High Ship Soul's judgment, Counselor Terrell stared into a fractured holomap. Red pulses moved from planet to planet, not destroying but restoring something long erased. "What are we seeing?" he asked, voice dry. A trembling aide whispered, "They're not attacking. They're waking up, and they're answering to a human." Silence fell. Above the ancient vampire capital, now fully risen from the dunes, Daniel stood on a balcony of bone and starlight, the wind pulling at his long black coat. Behind him, a sea of immortals stood ready. No armor, no machines, just eyes glowing with memories sharper than blades. The alien vampire woman stepped beside him. "They fear you now more than they ever feared us." He didn't smile. He looked to the stars. "They should." He raised his hand. No speech. No orders. And yet, across dozens of worlds, immortals moved. They didn't conquer. They didn't kill. They walked, through cities that forgot them, through palaces that erased them, and wherever they passed, the air changed. Buildings cracked, not from damage, but from shame. Walls rewritten with forgotten truths. Murals showing humans beside immortals, healing galaxies once torn by war. Memories flooded into the minds of those who had never known them. On Council World Drax 4, riots stopped mid-motion. People looked to the sky, confused, weeping, not from fear, from recognition. "We were lied to," someone whispered. "They were our allies," another said. "They gave us peace, and we gave them silence." In the main council chamber, desperation bloomed. They activated the last failsafe in the writer's core, a weapon not of death, but of history. It would erase Daniel completely from time, every word, every action, every memory, as if he never existed. But when they tried, it failed. The core shut itself down. The system displayed one message: entry not found. User exists beyond the narrative. Because Daniel wasn't part of their story anymore. He was something older, something outside. In orbit above a forgotten world, Daniel met the council in person. No guards, no weapons, just presence. They begged. They pleaded. They offered peace. And Daniel only asked one question: "Why did you fear what only wanted to help you?" No one answered, because none of them had been there. Those who had made the decision were already forgotten. Daniel placed his palm on the stone floor, and in that moment, the stars above changed alignment. A symbol appeared in every night sky, an old crest, once carved on vampire thrones and human rings alike. Balance. The galaxy shifted, not toward war, not toward rule, toward truth. A return of all that was hidden, not to punish, but to prepare. Because this time the deathless would not fade into myth. They had chosen a voice, a leader, a human not born of bloodlines or politics, but of pain, memory, and mercy. The gods remember. The stars were quiet. Not because peace had returned, but because something older than war now held the galaxy in its grasp: remembrance. Every being, from the lowliest scavenger to the highest council heir, now felt it. The weight of a truth that had been buried, then unearthed by a man who was no longer fully human, and an empire that refused to stay dead. In the heart of the risen vampire capital, Daniel stood beneath the great sky altar. His eyes, once human, now shimmered with ancient energy. The thousands behind him didn't chant. They didn't march. They simply stood in silence, waiting. They weren't conquerors. They were witnesses. The alien vampire woman stood at his side, her face softer now, her presence warmer. "They remember us," she said quietly. But is that enough? Daniel asked. She didn't answer. Because it wasn't a question for her. It was for him. Above them in orbit, the final council fleet hovered. Not to fight, but to watch. Their weapons were cold. Their leaders had vanished into exile, and in their place children sat at the command chairs. Younger species, untouched by old hatred, learning now what their ancestors had buried. Daniel stepped forward onto the sky altar. The stones beneath him pulsed. One beat for every immortal who had returned. He raised his voice, not loud but clear. We were erased. The air rippled. We were betrayed. The stars dimmed, but we never stopped watching, and across every inhabited world, his words echoed through minds and machines alike. You feared us because we would not kneel. You silenced us because we refused to forget who we were. And yet, when the time came, we returned, not with fire, but with truth. In that moment, the galaxy faced a choice, and Daniel gave it to them. You can walk with us, or we can walk away. A hush fell across the stars. Not one leader spoke. Not one ship moved. But slowly, one by one, people stood. Young ones. Old ones. Those who remembered something different in their blood. Those who wanted to build something new. On the far edge of the galaxy, a gate long sealed began to hum. Not a weapon, not a prison, a path to another place. Another galaxy, another beginning. The Immortals could leave, take their power, their history, and vanish forever, or stay, and risk being broken again. Daniel turned to the woman. What would you choose? Her eyes shimmered like twin moons. You're the one they followed. This ending is yours. He stepped to the edge of the altar. He looked up, and then he knelt. Not in defeat, but in choice. Then we stay, he said, not as rulers, not as gods, but as guardians, so it never happens again. Above them, the stars brightened, as if the galaxy itself had taken a breath it had held for centuries. On every planet, new stories were written, not of heroes, not of monsters, but of those who remembered when the gods came back and gave the stars their truth again.